Hello, welcome. So glad to have you here today. The topic is surrender to your mission. And if you're a light worker, if you're aware that you are here for a specific purpose to help people, you're really going to enjoy today's topic. I want to say hello to my listeners in Ponca City, Oklahoma. I see you. I am noticing and so appreciate your support. It means very much to me. So thanks for being here week after week. Let's get into this. Many people are waking up to the realization that they're feeling this inner push to take their career, sometimes their entire life, in a new direction. And usually that's walking away from a more traditional type of job and shifting into something spiritual, healing, or service oriented. They feel that deep need to help people, and they feel like now is the time, and they're right. And if they currently work in a position where they are helping people, they suddenly feel strongly moved to do something of even greater service that they may have never thought of before. Light workers are awakened to this, but there are millions more out there who have not yet realized what is happening and why. So, what does it mean to surrender? What am I talking about here? Surrendering to your spiritual mission or surrendering spiritually means giving up your own will to a large degree and your own plans in favor of that of your higher power's will and guidance. And it can also be described as a willful acceptance of a dominating force, but not in a negative way at all. This is stepping out of all limitations, expanding beyond your usual conditioning and opening yourself to infinite possibilities. It's about offering up that small self or personal identity to that of the absolute, that of the universe. When you surrender spiritually, here are some things that might happen. You stop trying to force situations that you can't control, especially forcing solutions to those situations you cannot control. You might trust that a divine force is taking care of everything. You experience inner peace and joy. So, here are some tips for surrendering spiritually, just to get you going with this. If you feel like, yes, that's what I want to do, I have no idea how to begin. You can pray. Take your hand off the wheel through prayer, whether it's to God, the universe, your higher power, source, whatever you want to call it. You don't even have to give it a name. God knows you're talking to them. The entity that we call God knows that you're talking to them. Appreciate gratitude, just appreciate what is thriving in your life and recognize that obstacles can be detours in the right direction. And I'll talk more about that later in this episode because that is important. Ask for a sign. Just ask the universe for a sign. You might remember what happened when I did that. I wanted a sign that the very vivid psychic dream I had where I met my master guide, Angel, I asked for a sign that that was indeed my master guide. And the next morning, I went outside and on my back patio in Cave Creek were these balls about this big around, like about the size of a tennis ball, a little bit bigger. Fluffy gray balls were rolling around in a slight breeze on the floor of my back patio. Never saw anything like that before. And I thought, is that ashes? How is it forming a ball? That's so weird. It's clearly very light. So I was curious. I picked one up and I put it in my hand, and a little breeze blew all the gray fluff away, and there was a perfect white feather in the palm of my hand, which is exactly the sign I had asked for. Oh, I feel the angels coming in as I tell you about this. So amazing, miraculous things can happen when you ask for a sign. Be quiet. Give yourself that quiet time without the TV or music or conversation, just you being silent and receiving, and offer yourself calmly and confidently. I'm ready. I know I've got a mission here. I'm ready. I want to move forward. Take me on this journey. Be faithful. This is not about a religion, but being faithful and obedient so that your heart and mind are open to God, to miracles, to your angels. Release desires. So if you have selfish desires, and That's not a horrible thing. We're just human. We're going to have them. Desires you really want, but it's seeming like it's not meant to happen. It's not happening now. You're being taken in another direction. Do your best to release them. So, I want to let you know how I personally struggled with spiritual surrender. And yes, I did. I know there's people out there who look up to me. I haven't always been who I am now. Who among us has? At the age of 18, I was clearly made aware of what I was born in this lifetime to do. And it happened in an odd way. A friend invited me to a spiritual circle in Prescott. I'd never been to one before. And I really wanted to see what it was about. And I was a little nervous. It was in the top story of an old Masonic temple that's not scary or anything, but that's where it was. And so there was a visiting channel there who was giving a presentation, and he was going around the circle. There's probably 25 people there, and he was pointing at each person and giving them an individual message from spirit. And he skipped over me. And part of me was relieved, and part of me was like, hey, what about me? What am I, chopped liver? So he finished his presentation, and then he turns and points to me and he says, you, you have 9 diamonds. He went into like a trance. You have 9 diamonds above your head. You have very powerful gifts. You are a channel. Oh, I feel angels coming in big time as I tell you this one. And I felt the chills then too. I was kind of embarrassed, and I didn't like being the center of attention. And he just kept going on about it. And I don't remember his name. I wish I did, but he was a famous channel, and he was from somewhere in Europe. So that's how I was awakened to the fact that, yeah, I already knew I had gifts. I knew I was seeing angels in spirit, and I had intuitive ability and even healing ability, but I did not know I was supposed to do something with that. That guy, thank you, whoever you are, you really woke me up to that. But I was 18, just, 1 year out of high school. I had had a lifelong, strong desire. This is my ego desire to be a professional singer. I have loved singing since I was a toddler. It hasn't changed. I still sing. I had realized that goal the year before I met that channel. So when I was 17, I started singing professionally, and I was really into it. I was in college as a voice major, pursuing a further musical career, and I was planning to move to New York to move even further towards that. Prescott, Arizona is not the center of professional music career, but God had other plans for me. Very clearly, I fell in love. I got married, and then I had a child at age 20. I couldn't have foreseen any of that. I did not want to take my daughter across the country away from her grandparents into an uncertain life. So my life was absorbed with being a mom, a wife, and working at a radio station. And around the time that my marriage ended, I heard my angels telling me that it was time to work in the field of mental health. I had great interest in that and followed their guidance. I didn't question it at all. I just went, oh, okay, I'll leave this successful career and go into something brand new at age 32. So I had gone back to school to get degrees in psychology. And what I did not realize at that time was that my angels were using an indirect way to get me where I needed to be because I wasn't listening to them at the time. I knew better. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. They pulled me away from my abusive marriage and away from my career in radio, which I really loved. And as soon as I began working at the psychiatric facility, which was my first job in that career, I knew I had made a great change. The work was fascinating. I loved the patients, and I found it very fulfilling. But I was really focused on why I had been guided to make that change. I just could not really see the connection. I just went with it and trusted that my angels knew what was best for me. And that's been proven true over and over in my lifetime. At the peak of my career in mental health, it was the happiest I'd been career wise. I was no longer on call 24/7, which is a miracle in that field. My angels told me that it was time to move across the mountain range and begin a full time career in the field of spirituality. Huh. Well, this was not a complete shock, as I had been doing some intuitive sessions for individuals and businesses on the side for years, never under my own name, never showing my face because I worked in mental health. That just doesn't go well together. But I did not want to leave the field of mental health. I'm not going to lie to you about that. My angels had to sort of pry my fingers off the doorway and push me through it to get the job done. And again, as soon as I began working full time, doing my spirituality work that I do now, I knew it was exactly right for me. Even better than my mental health career had been, it's definitely the most fulfilling work. I can see myself doing this the rest of my life. But understand, this was not some fast process. This is my point here. This journey from my initial discovery at age 18 that I had a mission to doing it full time took 46 years for me to even make the move. That's right, 46 years. I was stubborn and wanted to do what I thought was right for me. Had I had more faith in my angels when I was 18, I would have dove right into the field of spirituality, but clearly that did not happen. We are not who we were decades ago. We are different people, and I know I have intensely focused on growing personally and spiritually all this time. So I look back on myself at 18 and it's like, oh, you poor dumb kid. But I had no idea. I really thought that I knew what was best for me. So I ended up right where I was told I needed to be. It took 46 years to start, but that's okay. My angels said, don't worry about it. I was beating myself up. Why didn't I see this sooner? And they said, because the timing wasn't right. Okay. I can't help but think about how many more people I could have helped if I'd followed angelic guidance early on, but I can't go back and change it. And so I forgive my 18-year-old self and all the ages in between for not trusting like I do now. So there's almost always a catalyst of change that brings people to the point where they're ready to make that really big change, sometimes turning your life inside out and upside down to do what you're guided to do. You just feel like you can't stop yourself. You must do it. My last relationship was so destructive and emotionally damaging that I was at my lowest point when it ended. I was having suicidal thoughts. I felt worthless. I could not see a path out of the dark place that I was in at that time. Luckily, I'm blessed with a wonderful family and friends who helped me through that time. They really saved me. And as I healed, I became stronger than I ever was before. If you read my book, Let Your Angels Lead, you're familiar with the parade of angels I described. That first happened during my darkest point, just prior to ending that relationship. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, many, many angels came to me one night as I laid in bed, feeling really low and not having any idea of what to do. There were hundreds of them, maybe 1,000 different colors. Each one entered the room through the wall to my right, crossed over the bed and myself, and exited the room through the wall to my left. I watched this for hours. I knew I was witnessing a miraculous moment. Having seen angels all my life was amazing to begin with, but I had never seen that before. And as each angel passed me, I felt their powerful, high frequency energy. I believe they were energizing me, building me up for what was ahead, because I did have a lot to accomplish. Within a week of that relationship ending, I had made firm plans to leave my home in Cave Creek, move to Sedona, and work in the spirituality field full time. And my family thought I was crazy. What? You're leaving the field of mental health? You are what? Just what are you doing? And you got to realize when I made that move, I was 54. 54. So I made all these changes at 54. So you can do it. Never think it's too late. Just packing for that move was monumental for me at the time. But with each step toward my new life, I was feeling better and stronger, definitely stronger. But it was after I moved to Sedona and had time to think about my life journey that I could see how every step of my life and career prepared me for what I do now. The same is true for you. Negative experience teach us. It is strange, isn't it? The idea that to challenge your habits and make these monumental positive changes in your life, you almost need to be thrust into them. That you must have these traumatic experiences or hair raising moments to take that hard pivot into doing something better with your life, into doing those things you probably should have been doing all along. I can see that I was meant to do exactly what I am doing right now. So let's talk about why it usually requires a traumatic experience of some kind to make this final move to your mission. And I just want to let you know that having a near death experience is another thing that can propel somebody. I talked to a lot of clients who had a near death experience and discovered a spiritual gift or had a big realization and started making huge changes in their life. But why you don't have to wait until you have a near death experience or a traumatic experience. You can just act upon it now. If you know in your heart that you've got a purpose for being here, start moving toward it. Don't wait for that trauma. It makes it harder to climb out of and move forward. So just move forward. Maybe you'll be able to avoid that big trauma. Wouldn't that be lovely? It's not like you need convincing. I mean, I already knew what I should have been doing. I just wasn't doing it. And odds are that many of you listening and watching now are in the same position. So, why do we need that wake up call, whatever form it takes? I'm convinced that heaven and God exist. I mean, I've seen the afterlife and there's angels. So, there's absolutely something beyond what we see in our lives now. I don't need to touch heaven or God to believe that. I know that I'm capable of walking through this world confidently with the knowledge that something exists beyond it. I know that I have a passion and the ability to help people deeply, to help guide and truly see them for who they are, see their gifts, and I can lift them up. In essence, I know what my place, my mission, and my purpose are. I've always known. So maybe you don't need a near death experience. Maybe you don't need a trauma. But let's talk about something different. And let's talk about the near life experience because you might be in that situation right now and not even realize it. So, if there's a near death experience, there should also be something like a near life experience. But what would that be? What would that look like? Well, near death experience means something happened where you nearly died or you briefly died. Then it stands to reason. A near life experience means that you're kind of living, you're nearly living. And to me, that's just existing. You work, you eat, you sleep, you work, you eat, you sleep, you're on repeat, you're in a rut, you're not feeling passionate, you're not feeling abundance or fulfilled. It doesn't mean that we're dead, but it means we aren't really living. And by that, I mean living without fear, while at the same time walking the world with confidence and purpose. Living with intent is a great way to think about that. If that's not how we're living, then I don't think we're really living, at least not within the spirit of what the higher power envisioned for us. But we don't need to almost die or go through trauma for that to happen. Maybe we just need to get a sense of what truly living is like. And you could just take baby steps towards that full, abundant life. Catching a glimpse of it might be an illuminating experience that provides the push you need to move forward. So, how do you live with purpose and intent? Sounds good, but how do you get there, right? That's always the sticking point. Can you relate to my story in some way thus far? Are you struggling to control something in your life? Do you have a hard time just going with the flow? I have some thoughts on how you might overcome that and get to a place where you have a more abundant, fulfilling, full life. First, cultivate mindfulness. And you begin by embracing mindfulness practices. That's daily meditation, journaling, reflective exercises. They all help develop self awareness and foster a deeper connection with your spiritual self. Secondly, gratitude and reflection. Regularly express gratitude and reflect on the blessings in your life. When you appreciate the present moment, it enhances spiritual awareness and encourages further positive change. Again, you focus on what's good in your life, you get more of that. You focus on what's bad or missing in your life, you get more of that. Serve others. Engaging in acts of kindness and service cultivates a sense of purpose and connection. Volunteer work or simple acts of generosity towards others can foster a deeper understanding of your spiritual purpose. Seek knowledge and growth. Be a perpetual student. Continuously seek opportunities for learning and growth. Read spiritual texts, attend seminars, read self-help books. Seek guidance from spiritual mentors so you can broaden your perspectives, and this will all aid you in your spiritual development. Embrace authenticity. I am the queen of being your own weird self. Embrace your true self, whatever that is. Authenticity breeds contentment and it aligns you with your spiritual purpose. You can't be someone else. You can't be like someone else. You can only be you. And how beautiful is that? We don't all want to be the same. This enables you to live in harmony with your beliefs and values. Next, practice self-compassion. We can be our worst enemies and so hard on ourselves. So be gentle and fair with yourself. Embrace self-compassion so that you can find inner healing and resilience in the face of challenges. We all are going to have them. It's part of the human experience. This will foster spiritual growth. Set intentions and goals for yourself. Set clear intentions aligned with your spiritual purpose. What is it you want to accomplish? What's your mission? What are you here to do? How are you going to get there? Establishing goals empowers you to take actionable steps toward realizing your aspirations. And honestly, it's very hard to get where you're supposed to go if you don't know where you're headed. So not everyone has a near-death experience or survives a traumatic experience, but you don't have to wait for these things to happen in order to make major, lasting, positive changes in your life. You can connect with a higher power and your purpose on a spiritual level. Here's a big one. Stop fixating. As humans, we love to set goals and make plans. And most of the time, it is smart to do this. But when we fixate too much on achieving our goals and sticking to our plans, we can get in our own way. I've certainly done it. We think that we know what's best. We relentlessly pursue the path of our ego, and we do it at the expense of our connection with the universe. This behavior tends to keep us from manifesting what is of the highest good for all. To allow the presence of love to shine upon every area of our life, we must remember that hope never rests. Hope is the energy that carries us when we lose sight of our spiritual faith. Hope reminds us of the power of love and clears the path toward the highest good for all. Obstacles will happen. On your path forward, just prepare. They're going to happen. So what do you imagine happens when you choose to see obstacles as detours in the right direction instead of barriers holding you back? You can begin to find a deeper meaning and personal growth in the middle of your discomfort. Maybe you can connect on a higher purpose, make a real connection to someone, or even be set on a path that will change the course of your life in a positive way. It was my trust in God and my angels that led to my commitment to surrender and that guided me every step of the way. Surrendering my plans showed me that the universe has a better plan and timeline than my own. I learned to see my obstacles as opportunities for great healing and spiritual growth. My commitment to show up for my personal, physical, and emotional healing helped me to become strong enough to help others who were going through trauma or had done so. My journey to this place of surrender has been nothing short of a miracle, a series of true miracles. I surrendered my time and my plans to a power greater than me. That divine guidance was proven to be correct again and again. And so through those experiences, I developed great faith that God has a plan for me. Angels are being sent to me to guide me, and they are never wrong. As you practice the steps I told you about earlier in this episode, you will strengthen your relationship with your higher power and your angels. And remember, the more you ask for guidance, the more guidance you will receive. Your commitment to this authentic, trusting way of living will unleash the presence of your own power and help you relinquish your need to control. At that point, you can relax into a sense of certainty and freedom. You have the power to make these things happen. You always have. So start taking those steps today. Be the change. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please tune in next Sunday. I have a guest. Her name is Christina Franz. She's a channel, and she'll be talking about the divine feminine. In the meantime, may your angels surround you. May your angels protect you every moment, every day of your life. I'll see you next week.